Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the JKWD podcast. If you are getting this on the day that it comes out or the day after, it is Amazon Prime Day this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe. Double check me on that. But if you want to support the show, go over to the show notes and click on support the show by shopping at our Amazon link, or however that's worded, but we'll get it high up on this episode's show notes. But it's sitting there in every episode we've ever recorded. So, if you shop at Amazon with our link, we'll get like a couple of cents for every $1,000 you spend or something. But it's Prime Day, which means you're probably going to buy more stuff anyway. So yeah, why not? Why not support the show on your way?
That's what I'm
saying. Kelvin, how you doing today?
Mr. Shear, I am doing very well, thank you very much. And I got nothing to complain about today. The weather here is magnificent. I turned on my furnace yesterday. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Hey, you made it into October. That's pretty good.
Man, it was. I just refused. Yesterday, I'm standing in my living room and I'm going like, okay, I'm not going to wear a coat. What the hell? I just need to bring the temperature up like 4 degrees. We'll be doing fine. So we did that. But anyway, today it's wonderful. Blue skies, white clouds, and it looks wonderful outside. I haven't looked at the thermometer because I haven't been outside yet. I don't need to. I don't really care what it is until I get ready to go outside the house.
Well, it's funny because, this is an audio recording, but we meet in video, and you have this green screen virtual room, and it's always the same weather when I see you.
It is.
I forget that's not actually your house. And
I'm gonna work on changing that. I'm gonna work on changing that. Oh,
and I really want those. I really want those palm leaves over your right shoulder to be blowing around a little bit. The ones out on the balcony there.
I'm going to find an animated background. You're gonna get that. Right. I saw one not too long ago. Well, as a matter of fact, I think it was one when we were doing those Friday night dinners, and one of your guests had a video in the back, and we had this big white rabbit that was walking around outside looking into the house. That was great. I got to find me one of those. But anyway, hey, I got other good news. Yeah. I got a new grandbaby. Aha.
You do. Congrats,
I
Papa.
do. And I'm like, hey, I don't even feel old. But they're so little, those babies, oh my God. But anyway, so I'm happy. So now, because this is cool, because my current granddaughter, the new one is almost 2 weeks old. And my next oldest grandchild is 18. And my next oldest grandchild is 25. So I put the rest of the family on notice. They got to stay healthy, because I'm not going to be going to all these recitals and graduations and school parties and stuff by myself. Stay healthy.
That's right.
And we're going to have some fun. Loving life.
Awesome.
How about you?
Well, things are good here. You got 11 miles in last week. Hoping for 11 miles this weekend, the weekend in between our recording and our release of this episode. So hopefully by the time you hear this, it happened.
I haven't even driven that far in the last week. So.
Right. And we got the kiddo into daycare situation starting. Well, we'll probably send her for a couple of days next week, and then really start her full time after that.
Oh, nice.
So going to be hard letting go of her. She's been home for 21 and a half months now.
Wow.
But she needs some friends, and she needs some socialization, and she needs to learn some of the stuff that, kids who are almost 2 are supposed to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we were here for the eating and the walking and the gabbing and the coloring and the all of that, but it's like the next step is cutting up onions for dinner. And that's probably not something
write
we
a
should be
news story
entrusting.
too. So, you know.
Yeah, it's probably not stuff we should be entrusting to a 2-year-old. So she needs to go learn circle time and her letters and colors and shapes and stuff.
Cool.
And we'll help with that. But that's not our. It's a little outside our wheelhouse. That's what we're saying.
Gotcha.
So we're looking forward to that, and I'm sure that by the time by the time she's been there for a couple of months, she'll be here recording in my place. That's the way things go with her. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't rehearse in front of people. She's like me. When she started walking, she didn't take a couple of steps and fall down. She just got up, took one step, and then was running laps around the house. So we assume that as soon as she's got 3 words, she'll be reciting Shakespeare. Yeah.
Right. Oh, look, she's written her first novel, Dad. Yeah. Well, there you go. She'll probably be podcasting first. We've been a good example.
Yeah, probably, because she's a talker.
For sure.
So we are brought to you today by Vitamin K Daily Philosophical Supplements for Your Attitude Health. I wanted to start that with daily, and I'm like, that's not right. That's part of the name of the thing. So you wake up every morning, Monday through Friday, with a fine, how do you do? Have a wonderful day. You are awesome. From the Prince of Positive himself, Kelvin P. Ringgold Sr.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's him. That's the other guy, the other voice here. 4 weeks free. Go to vitaminkdaily.com. Sign up today. If you like it, hang on for just $24.95 a year. If you don't like it, well, there's something wrong. No, there's not anything wrong with it. It's just not for you, and that's okay.
May not be your cup of tea.
Just cancel before the 4 weeks is up, and you won't be charged.
There you go.
vitaminkdaily.com. Let's do the show.
Josh and Kelvin World Domination Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Wow, it was a long intro, but hey, as you know,
not as long as some we've done.
It's true. So as you know, I am I like to have a few books going at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And I was reading 2 very different books at the same time, and the same term popped up in both. So I was like, oh, well, we're probably supposed to talk about this. And so that would be post-traumatic growth, which you knew because you saw the title of the episode when you downloaded it. So you knew that's what we were talking about. But in case it's not clear, we hear a lot in the news and wherever else about, post-traumatic stress. We usually hear it in terms of, veterans coming home from service overseas and having taken part in war, but post-traumatic stress comes from anything really, any trauma. From rape to, losing a loved one to anything really. A stroke even, I guess, is a trauma. And the thing is that trauma can spur growth as well. There has to be, you have to have some resilience obviously built in, and to some extent you have to want to grow from it, but that's the punchline, that trauma doesn't have to spur stress. It can spur growth. The 2 books this came up in, said, they're very different. One is Transcend by Barry Kaufman. It's we've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast. He spent a lot of time with Abraham Maslow's unpublished notes, and kind of has reimagined the hierarchy of needs.
Yes, sir.
From the pyramid that we all attribute to Maslow, that Maslow didn't design, and then Kaufman turned it into a sailboat. So you got kind of the basis, the things that, the safety pieces that, that hold you in and keep you afloat. And then you get to sail, the things that really help you take off. Self-actualization was the top of the pyramid, but there's later notes from Maslow talked about transcendence, talked about transcending ego and physicality and like being more of a whole person, and that's. But it came up in that book, and it came up in Antifragile by Nassim Taleb, and that's a very different kind of book. It's part of a series of books that you might have read. Some of them or heard of them. Some of them, Fooled by Randomness and Black Swan. He's got a new one called Skin in the Game. But the book is based around the idea that you want to build systems and systems specifically, but also your own body and health, et cetera, to feed on randomness and chaos. If glass is fragile, the building is still fragile. Like it might be sturdier, more robust, but it's not. It can still be destroyed the way a window can be destroyed. The idea is to build something that can grow from that kind of random event that would destroy something robust. And serendipitously for book sales and that kind of thing and notoriety, Taleb's first book in this vein was Fooled by Randomness, and it came out 1 week before the terrorist attacks of 9/11 in the U.S. And in it, he said one of the random events that could shake up a life. He said, for all I know, an airplane could fly into my office building, and people took that as predictive. And he was like, no, that's exactly not the point. The point is that it's a random event. It's just one of many random events that could happen, and we don't want it to ruin our systems. And I don't know how well some people remember 9/11 apart from like the actual event. But one thing that happened, and Taleb was a trader, was a market trader for a long time. And so he talks about market. He writes specifically about markets and then tries to expand that into other realms. But one of the things that happened around 9/11 was that the stock market shut down, and when it reopened the following Monday, 9/11 was a Tuesday. It happened before the market opened, and I don't remember if they actually opened the market and then closed it or just never opened it. But when it opened the following Monday, it opened down 700 points. And the stock market was already not doing well. It was kind of post.com bubble, and it was just kind of busting then, late 2001. And so everybody took that as predictive, and they're like, hey, predict the next random events. Black swan events is what he called them in the next book. He's like, well, I can't. That's exactly the point, right? That you never know what's going to happen. So build yourself, whether it's your body or your country's laws or your company's, what your company does, how your company responds. Build those systems so that it doesn't matter what happens, you can grow from it. And if you suffer a trauma like 9/11, like losing a loved one, you can grow from it. And Harold Kushner wrote a book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And he wrote that, it's a pretty famous book, right? You said yes, like you remember hearing about it. He wrote that.
I've heard.
Yeah. So he I think that was the book that came out of him losing like a very young child. So he took that trauma to his family and turned it into he was already had a spiritual. He was a rabbi already, so right. That was already his mindset and where he lives. But what does this mean spiritually? Like, why did this happen? Where did this come from? And that's another sign of the ability to grow out of a trauma. Mm. I'm going to shut up for a minute and let you.
I didn't. Well, we already knew.
Let you be part of this.
I was going to do a lot of listening anyway, but the deal was, people in general are not prepared. I mean, most of us that I have seen, we're not really prepared for anything that resembles trauma. And when it happens, we tend to do more of shutting down and hiding than we do facing it, recovering from it, giving it a meaning that serves us. One of the best things that I like about Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins says nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning that you give it. So when something happens in our lives, if we give it a horrible meaning, we debilitate ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we take that same event and turn it around and find out what we can do good from it, which takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of resilience, mm-hmm. especially if that hasn't been your life, your mindset anyway. You're like, what? There are some people who believe that if this thing happened, it was supposed to happen, so I'm supposed to take this and do something good. I'm supposed to turn this around. While other people just curl up into a little bitty ball and shrivel away.
Right.
And so typically I haven't had disaster. I mean, I've had unfortunate things happen in my life. I've had loved ones die. I've had, I haven't turned any of that into a woe is me, God doesn't love me, because for death, for me, for one, I got an inside tip here that's the only way you get to leave the planet. At some point, some of the people,
recording this in 2020.
yeah.
You're hearing this in 30 years.
Guys are like, leave the planet. Ministers have been known to say, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. But that's a foregone conclusion when we hit the planet. So if you're totally devastated, especially if somebody has had a nice long life, it's like, it just seems to be, there's a lot of reality we haven't been looking at right there as far as that's concerned. Now, early traumatic deaths, that's different. That's a trip for the mind because you're not really ready for that, but it still happens. So, I look at that kind of things and how to turn those things around. It takes a special mindset to go, this is something I can turn around to and make it meaningful and make it mean something other than that I just had a disaster. So in this book, does he talk about how to do that? How to turn that thing around in our heads that hurts like hell right now or scares us to death and turn that into something that makes us stronger?
Yeah, well, it has to be a conscious effort. And this is more, Kaufman talking. Transcend is he's a psychology PhD. So coming from that angle, Yeah, and it does take resilience. You have to be willing to grow from the experience, and it's not to say that it was never stressful, but it's a conscious effort, and you need to use an existing strong pathway, right? So, I know I can honestly say I haven't suffered a lot of trauma in my life, but I know that my release I have several types of release for that. One is I run. I run for a couple of hours at a time. That's something that helps me let out some physical energy, and gives me brain space to process. And I process on paper. I write. I write to process. I start with the facts, and then as I put the facts down, as I present the facts, I start to be able to pull an opinion out of them.
Right.
And from there decide what, if anything, I want to do about it. And that's where you decide, or where I would decide, on the growth tactic. So every time we have, well, not every time, but many times when we have some major event in the news, something like, Ferguson a few years ago, and, when the riots hit Ferguson, Missouri, after Mike Brown's killing, and, all the, everything after the George Floyd murder this year, and, other stuff in between. I run over to my blog and I write about it, and I start to think about what in the system I think needs changing, and consider what my role can be in that. And, often, somebody who writes, somebody with journalism training, I feel like my role is frequently context and explainers, and actually like getting out the word as to how we make the systems changes that we think we need along the way. But that's me.
All right. So we're going to take this book, and did this gentleman give some other examples of?
We talking about the Taleb book, or the
Anti-Fragile book?
Taleb.
How to turn fragile to anti-fragile.
Yeah. So one of the simplest examples he gives is when he started getting notoriety and money, people suggested he get a bodyguard. And he said, well, I don't want to walk around with another person, and I don't want to have to worry about that guy's bad day. He's carting me around with a gun supposed to be protecting me. What if he has a crappy day? So he said, instead of a bodyguard, I hired a trainer, and I got big and made myself look like a bodyguard. And, I don't need a bodyguard because nobody's going to mess with me, because that's how I look. So, he built his body to, withstand attack and grow stronger, because he'll learn something from it. And it's about putting systems in place before becoming anti-fragile is putting systems in place before you become vulnerable to something. If you want to see a very fragile reactionary system, look at our airplane security in the U.S. When the shoe bomber came about, everybody started having to take their shoes off to get through security. After 9/11, you stopped being able to walk your loved ones to the gate. You had to have a ticket to get through security. When somebody tried to get through security with a false bottom on their soda bottle that would have mixed two explosive liquids, nobody was allowed to bring liquids more than 3 ounces. We still aren't. That's just highly reactive.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Australia, you don't take your shoes off, you don't take your belt off, you don't take your laptop out of your backpack. Just because they can screen all that stuff while it's on you. Mm-hmm. You're getting as much. You get as much X-ray while your computer's in a laptop bag as it does when it's in a cart. But we're paranoid and have extra eyeballs.
Right.
If you've got the right sort of detection device, when you walk through it, you don't need to take your shoes off because it'll detect anomalies in your shoes. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've flown lately, but they've got those full body scanners now.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So there was one time I walked through there. I didn't realize I hadn't taken my handkerchief out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm. And
they pulled me over and pulled me aside and searched me because something came up weird. Mm-hmm. The handkerchief. How overreactive are we that that could have turned into something? I think it only didn't turn into something worse because it's also traveling with a wife and a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, cool. So I guess the mindset is, well, we've always talked about plan for the worst, expect the best, plan for the worst kind of a thing.
Yeah. And if the worst happens, make sure that you're prepared to learn from it and grow from it. You can take a temporary setback to grow, but you can't let that one random catastrophic hit take you out.
Well, a lot of people do. People do, but I think there's some pre-work we could do on that because we, I don't know, my generation, I don't know it anymore, but we kind of, it's one thing to expect life to be perfect, and mm-hmm. I don't necessarily expect life to be perfect, but I expect it to be okay. I don't because I'm a big law of attraction guy. I don't go around looking for bad things because I know if I look for them with over so much energy, they'll just show up because the universe is like, oh, he's looking for this to happen. That is definitely not me.
Well, if you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Beg pardon?
If you'll find what you're looking for.
Yeah, you will find what you're looking for. It will show up.
But some things show up without much announcement.
Yep. Maybe standing next to the guy who's got a bad day. But I look at that stuff and I don't let anything really get me down. I have a firm grip on neutral, which is not necessarily always the best place because it seems to sometimes rob us of emotion and joy. However, it's better than losing all bearing when something happens, when you don't know what to do, and then you got to take a lot of people out with you. So, but anyway, so post-traumatic growth goes to say after the trauma, we can recover. And
not just recover, but improve.
And improve. So, yeah. And, I there's enough people out there who have done that. We get better. And then we're better for the next time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a life coach. Sometimes I get a challenge when people start to talk. And, one of the things about life coaching is we're not supposed to, we don't give answers. We're not supposed to say, oh, well, this is what's wrong and this is what you should do about it. We help people work through what it is they see, what it is they feel, what it is they believe, how that belief serves them. Could they believe something else? Could they do something else? But we have to find out, number one, where they are. So, and a lot of people don't think they can withstand any trauma. And certainly if you don't think you can handle it, you're not prepared for it. You don't have the mindset for it.
Right.
But we do live on planet Earth. A lot of weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
So,
our current situation with COVID is an example, right?
Absolutely.
Apart from the fact that most of the world did not have a pandemic plan in place, everybody just went, okay, everybody just stay home.
Mm.
We're going to figure this thing out. And they started from scratch. But it turns out that a lot of people who get hospitalized from COVID are vitamin D deficient. And so, hey, if you were getting enough vitamin D from the outset, wouldn't have been an issue if you wouldn't have been hospitalized, right? Or you had a better chance of not being hospitalized. So, if obesity was a big factor,
mm-hmm.
Especially in a lot of early deaths,
mm-hmm.
If you get yourself healthier, then you have a kind of a built-in anti-fragility,
right.
And then, something might take you out for a little bit, but then you can grow back stronger from it.
Yep. Come back, rebound. Rebounding is good. That first bounce, boy.
Yeah.
Well, that first bounce is a doozy sometimes.
Yeah. And that's when people need to really consider, not immediately, but pretty quickly after, you need to consider what you want to have learned from that. If you let it go, you risk having to face it in the future, unexpectedly again. And if you decide that it's going to be stressful, it's going to be stressful. And if you decide that you're going to grow from it, you're going to grow from it. And it's way, way easier to be stressed by unforeseen events.
Mm-hmm.
But way more, much better for you to grow from, right? If you're going to let something hurt you, it's going to keep hurting you. If you're going to grow from something, you got a long way to go. Right? I mean, you might have to learn new skills along the way, and it might take some time, but at least your mindset's headed the right direction.
Yeah. It's a good idea sometimes to read books or read stories by people who have overcome traumatic events, because we can see what those mindsets were and how it was these people reformulated the things in their mind and their life that gave them the ability to move forward. Most of us don't read those types of stories. We read, I don't know, See Dick Run. I don't know what we read. We read stuff about stars' lives on the internet. Most of us aren't reading books that teach us how to shore up our mindset and be able to handle things either for ourselves or other people. So I don't know. Maybe we should start coming up with we probably did this once, a book each week that says, hey, read this one. This is a good thing. You'll enjoy this.
Well, we do. We mention books. We mention books frequently in our show notes too. I can at some point. This might be a good idea is to run through our show notes and gather all the books we've mentioned onto a separate page.
Oh, that would be cool.
I'll set that for a 2021 project. So
there we go.
So we'll have a nice list of books that you can. If I'm feeling ambitious, and we'll have links to both a paper version and an audio version, whenever possible.
That'll work.
Yeah.
And yeah. So hey, I had a good idea. Did you like that?
I did.
Because we've interviewed some. We've interviewed.
Well, we've interviewed some great people and
resilience coaches, and hey, that's you can go back and categorize everything. We've only got 4 years worth.
That's right. Come up on 5, but 4.5 years worth. All right. Yeah, this is episode 227, so we're hurtling toward 5 years here.
Awesome.
All right. So, well, I think this is a good place to wrap up because we're starting to ramble a little bit, and I know you got to get out of here anyway.
Who? We ramble? No.
Not us.
Out of your mind.
So support us on Amazon Prime Day. Hit that shop with our Amazon link. Go get your daily dose of positive, vitaminkdaily.com. No spaces or anything, just vitaminkdaily.com. Get show notes and everything else at jkwdpodcast.com. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye! A Better Humanhood production.